When I was 9, my life split into two halves, before the crash and after. Before, it was laughter in the kitchen, Saturday pancakes with too much syrup, my mom singing off-key while folding laundry, my dad pretending not to cry during Disney movies. We were a small family, but we were a warm one. Then one snowy December night, everything stopped. A drunk driver. Black ice. A metal guardrail bent like a paperclip. I didn't understand what "no longer with us" meant when the police officer said it. I kept asking when they were coming back. I remember gripping my stuffed bunny so tightly that the ear tore off. I didn't cry until the funeral. And that's where I met Aunt Deborah again, my mom's older sister. She wore a long black coat and lipstick too bright for a funeral. She hugged me stiffly, like I was someone else's child. But when the social worker asked who could take me in, Aunt Deborah raised her hand and said all the right things. Of course, she's family. I'll treat her like my own. She lied. And no one questioned her. At first, it didn't seem so bad. Her house was bigger than ours. She had a husband, Greg, who barely spoke, and a daughter, Kenzie, a year older than me, who had her own room, her own iPad, and a glittery canopy bed that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Meanwhile, I was given the storage room. It still smelled like paint. My bed was a pull-out cot with a thin mattress. The walls were bare except for one picture frame Aunt Deborah let me hang, a photo of my parents. Every time I looked at it, I told myself, just survive until you're old enough to leave. Within days, my role in the house was obvious. I was the extra pair of hands, the invisible helper. Aunt Deborah started with small chores, taking out the trash, folding laundry, making my own lunch. But by the time I was 10, I was scrubbing floors, dusting blinds, making breakfast for everyone by 6:30 a.m. Kenzie never lifted a finger. If she left her cereal bowl on the table, Aunt Deborah would call me from upstairs to clean it. Once, I forgot to vacuum the stairs, and Deborah made me do it at midnight, while Kenzie laughed from the hallway. She didn't hit me. No bruises, no scars. That made it harder to explain. I wasn't abused, not in the way people recognize. I was just exhausted, belittled, gaslight. Whenever I got upset, Deborah would say, "You think this is hard? Try raising a child you didn't plan for." Or worse. I could have said no, Lena. I should have. You should be grateful. So I said thank you when she handed down Kenzie's old clothes. I said thank you when I got cold pizza for dinner while they ate steak. I said thank you when I got nothing for Christmas except a pair of used socks, and watched Kenzie unwrap an iPhone. I clung to that photo of my parents like it was oxygen. I'd talk to it when I was alone. I'd whisper, "I'm trying. I promise I'm trying." As I got older, the emotional gap between me and Kenzie widened into a canyon. She had dance recitals, summer camps, and birthday parties that I planned but was never allowed to attend. "Someone has to clean up," Aunt Deborah would say. School was the only place I felt human. My teachers praised my essays. My classmates thought I was just quiet, maybe shy. No one knew that I stayed up late doing my homework after everyone else was asleep, using a flashlight because Aunt Deborah said leaving the lights on was wasting electricity. I remember one night I was 13 and I asked her if I could join the school choir. She stared at me like I was stupid. "Who's going to make dinner, Lena? Who's going to fold the laundry while we're at Kenzie's recital?" That was her answer to everything. Kenzie first. Me last. But I kept going. I kept swallowing the pain, pushing down the rage, telling myself that if I could just make it to 18, I'd leave and never look back. I didn't tell anyone. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't think anyone would believe me. Aunt Deborah was a master manipulator. In public, she was charming, generous, the saintly aunt who took in her dead sister's child. She volunteered at church, baked for fundraisers, and bragged about how resilient I was. Behind closed doors, she reminded me daily that I was lucky not to be in foster care, that if she hadn't stepped in, I'd be on the streets. The worst part? Some days I believed her. Some days I thought, maybe I really was a burden. Maybe I really did owe her. But all that changed the day I found the letter. I wasn't supposed to be in her closet. But she told me to reorganize the winter coats. It was just another task on her never-ending list. That's when I saw the envelope, yellowed, creased, and hidden behind a stack of shoeboxes. The handwriting looked familiar. My heart dropped. It was my mom's. And in just a few lines, everything I thought I knew collapsed. I held the letter in trembling hands, the edges worn, like it had been read and reread, or hidden for a long time. The handwriting was definitely my mom's. I would have known it anywhere. She used to leave notes in my lunchbox with smiley faces and little hearts. Seeing it now, on an old envelope tucked behind shoeboxes, felt like touching a ghost. My heart pounded in my ears as I opened it. December 10th. Deborah, I still don't trust you. I'm saying this as your sister and as Lena's mother. We're only listing you as guardian because the lawyer says we need a name for the trip. But this is temporary. If anything happens, do the right thing. Don't take advantage of her. She's a sensitive girl, Deb. She still sleeps with Mr. Fluff. You know she won't ask for anything. Please don't use that against her. If we don't make it back from Canada, know this, we'll be rewriting the will when we return. My fingers went numb. I read it again. Then again. I didn't realize I was crying until the ink started to blur from a tear that dropped on the paper. So many pieces clicked into place. She wasn't supposed to raise me permanently. My parents didn't want this. They had planned to change the will. They knew Aunt Deborah couldn't be trusted. And she knew it too. That's why she hid the letter. That's why she kept me isolated from the rest of the family. Why she never let me stay over at friends' houses. Why she always made sure I was too exhausted to ask questions. She didn't just want to raise me. She wanted to control me. She wanted the sympathy, the praise, the financial benefits, whatever she could suck out of the tragedy. I felt sick. My stomach turned, ball rising in my throat as memories flooded back. The way she told me I should be grateful she didn't send me to a group home. The time she made me clean the garage in winter because I forgot to label the spice jars. The way she'd smile at church and say, "Oh, Lena? She's like one of my own." Lies. I wasn't her daughter. I was her built-in maid, her emotional punching bag, her tool. And now I had proof. But I didn't know what to do with it. I stood in the closet for nearly half an hour, reading and rereading, tears falling silently. I took photos of the letter with my phone, every angle, every word, just in case. I put it back exactly where I found it, careful not to rustle the coats or shift the shoeboxes. For the next few days, I walked around in a daze. I went through the motions, making breakfast, vacuuming, folding laundry, but my mind was spinning. I had always wondered why Aunt Deborah got so weird whenever someone from my dad's side tried to call or visit. Why she'd screen my emails, limit my time online, even intercept my mail by accident. She wasn't just strict, she was deliberately cutting me off. I was a puppet in a show she curated. And Kenzie? She didn't even know. She was too busy living her glittery, chore-free life to notice that I was being crushed under her mom's heel. But I wasn't ready to blow it all up. Not yet. I needed more than truth. I needed timing. And the perfect opportunity came wrapped in pink and gold invitations. Kenzie's Sweet 16. It was all Aunt Deborah could talk about for weeks. The cake, the decorations, the guest list. The whole community will be there, she kept bragging to her friends on the phone. Even Principal Harris and Councilman Deacon's wife. I watched from the hallway, silent as always. She never mentioned me. Never told them that I was the one who cleaned the backyard, designed the invites, strung up the lights, hemmed Kenzie's custom dress when it didn't fit right. I did it all. Every detail. And that's when it hit me. If she was going to use me to put on this grand performance, then I'd make sure everyone saw the truth when the curtains dropped. So I smiled. I acted normal. I played along. The party would be hers. But the moment would be mine. The week leading up to Kenzie's Sweet 16 was a blur of balloons, phone calls, and carefully managed chaos, and I was behind all of it. Aunt Deborah handed me a clipboard like I was her personal assistant. Don't forget to confirm the caterer. And pick up Kenzie's sash, not the glitter one, the pearl one. She didn't ask if I had schoolwork. She didn't care. I smiled, nodded, and wrote it all down. My hands were steady, but my heart? My heart was a storm. Because this wasn't just a party. It was my battlefield. And no one suspected a thing. I ironed tablecloths, tied bows to chairs, and triple-checked the guest list. People were coming, important people. Principal Harris, the local pastor, 3 members of the school board. Kenzie was practically royalty in our town, and this party was her coronation. All made possible by the invisible niece in the background. But I wasn't invisible anymore. The night of the party, the backyard was glowing with string lights and floating candles. Teenagers in formal dresses giggled and posed for selfies in front of the flower wall I had built myself. Parents mingled near the catered food table, the same one I decorated with Aunt Deborah's signature touch. She was in her element, laughing, bragging. You know, it's not easy raising 2 girls alone after Greg left. But Lena's always been such a helper, almost like a daughter. I nearly choked on the word daughter. Kenzie descended the stairs in a glittery white dress, a tiara already on her head. The crowd cheered. She waved like she was Miss America. Aunt Deborah wiped a fake tear and looked at me.
Well?
Go bring out the cake. Of course.
Me.
Always the one behind the curtain. I walked inside, lit the candles, and steadied my breathing. Then I glanced at the small note card tucked in my pocket. My notes. My truth. And I walked back outside, not with the cake, but with a microphone. The DJ looked confused. Do you want to make a toast or something? I nodded.
Yeah.
Just a few words. He handed me the mic. I turned to face the crowd. My voice trembled for just a second. Then I saw Kenzie, smiling, and Aunt Deborah standing proud, soaking in the applause. And I began. Hi, everyone. I know most of you probably don't know me. I'm Lena, the girl who's been living in this house since I was 9. A few heads turned. Murmurs. You've all heard how my aunt heroically took me in after my parents died. How she raised me like her own. Well, that's not exactly true. I paused. Aunt Deborah's face stiffened. She started moving toward me. Don't, Aunt Deborah, I said into the mic. You've had your say for years. It's my turn now. She froze. People stared. She didn't raise me like a daughter. She raised me like help. Like a live-in maid. While Kenzie got brand new clothes, I wore hand-me-downs. While you all enjoyed her parties and hospitality, I was scrubbing floors, cooking meals, ironing dresses. I've been told to be grateful more times than I can count. The air grew heavy. Guests were whispering now, shifting uncomfortably. Then I pulled out the photocopy of the letter, printed large, every word clearly legible. And for those of you who think she was just doing her best, I want to read you something. It's a letter my mom wrote to her just 2 weeks before she and my dad died. I read it, word for word, slowly. By the time I finished, you could hear a pin drop. Aunt Deborah looked like she had been slapped. Her mouth opened, then closed. Kenzie stared at her mom in horror. I folded the letter, calmly. So no, she didn't save me. She hid me. She controlled me. She cut me off from people who loved me and used me to play the hero. And I stayed silent for years because I thought no one would believe me. I looked around, eyes wide, mouths open. But now I don't care if you believe me, because I know the truth. And finally, so do you. I handed the mic back to the DJ, walked inside, grabbed my small overnight bag from the closet, already packed, and stepped into a waiting car. Joanna was behind the wheel, my mom's cousin, the one Deborah had always said moved away and lost touch. She didn't. Deborah kept her away, but I found her through an old email in one of my dad's photo albums. She answered in less than 5 minutes. When I told her everything, she cried. And then she said 6 words that changed everything. Come home. I've got you, sweetheart. And just like that, I left. No more scrubbing. No more silence. No more pretending. I wasn't the maid anymore. I was Lena Carter, daughter of a woman who tried to protect me with a single letter and a girl who finally found her voice. When Joanna pulled away from the house that night, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had already left that place long before I packed my bag. That house, with its pastel walls and spotless counters, was never my home. It was a stage. And I had just shut the curtains. Joanna drove in silence for the first few miles. I think she was giving me space to breathe. Or maybe she knew that no words could fix the kind of ache I carried. But her hand reached over and gave mine a squeeze at a red light. That small, simple gesture cracked something in me. Tears slid down my cheeks, hot and quiet. And for the first time in years, I wasn't crying because I was afraid. I was crying because I was free. Joanna lived in a quiet suburb 2 hours away. Her house smelled like cinnamon and old books. Her dog, a wobbly old mutt named Bandit, barked once and then promptly fell asleep on my feet. She gave me the guest room, a room with a window that opened all the way, a room where I didn't have to earn my place, where no one barked orders or accused me of being ungrateful. The first night, I lay awake listening to the silence. No yelling, no footsteps, no slamming doors, just me and peace. The next few weeks were a blur of healing. Joanna helped me enroll in a new school. She took me to the DMV so I could get my ID reissued, with her listed as my guardian. Legally. Honestly. She even helped me report Aunt Deborah to Child Protective Services. I had everything documented. Photos of the letter, audio from my phone of things Deborah had said to me, even screenshots of the bank account that was meant for my college fund, but had mysteriously disappeared. The investigator told us we weren't the first ones to raise red flags about Aunt Deborah. Apparently, there had been whispers before, but no one had proof. Now they did. I didn't expect Kenzie to reach out, but she did. She found me on Instagram 2 weeks after the party. Kenzie, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I don't even know who she is anymore. I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about the years I spent watching her twirl through life while I cleaned up her glittery messes. I thought about how many times I had envied her, hated her, and pitted her. And then I replied, "Me, now you do." I didn't block her. But I didn't keep the conversation going either. She had her own truth to reckon with now. People talk, especially in small towns. Word about what happened at the party spread fast. Some didn't believe it at first. Aunt Deborah had built a reputation on being a saint. But that reputation crumbled fast when CPS knocked on her door and her social media suddenly went dark. I heard she tried to spin the story, said I was troubled, confused, ungrateful. But the community wasn't buying it anymore. Not after hearing the letter in my mom's handwriting. Not after realizing I had proof. She stopped getting invited to luncheons. Her job at the real estate office quietly phased her out. Even Kenzie transferred schools after a while. Too much side-eye from people who used to worship her. It didn't make everything okay. But it was something. And sometimes, that's all you need to move forward. A few months later, I sat on Joanna's porch with a mug of hot cocoa and a letter of my own. It was a college acceptance letter. I'd written about resilience in my personal essay, about how sometimes family isn't who you're born to, it's who steps in when the world tries to erase you. I got a scholarship. Joanna cried harder than I did. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did, ruining Aunt Deborah's reputation, making it public. But here's the thing, she ruined herself. I just told the truth. And if speaking up made someone else out there feel seen, another girl scrubbing someone else's floor while pretending it was love, then it was worth every second. My parents didn't make it home from their trip, but their letter did. And in the end, that letter became my sword, my shield, and my escape hatch. It reminded me that I was loved once, that someone had wanted to protect me, and I had the strength to finish what they started. I'm Lena Carter. I was the girl in the background, the servant in the shadows, the secret no one saw. And now, I'm the voice that shattered the silence. I'm the girl who got out and took her life back.